Four Knights of the Apocalypse Chapter 102 is out, and I have to say, this chapter got me hyped. The Walneck arc has officially concluded, and we're getting set up for our next major arc, which is something that I was honestly not expecting, and just threw a big curveball at us with how things are going to progress, because I initially thought we were going to go the route that Meliodas dictated us to go to right before Walneck started. But now we're going to a completely different destination that I wasn't expecting we'd get to until much later on in the series, at least another 50 chapters or so, maybe even 100 if we really wanted to stretch it out. But I'm really happy to see how things are going, and we're also still keeping up the emotions and the tension from the last few chapters with the death of Jade and how it's affecting the characters, especially those in the Tristan platoon. But we'll get into the chapter as we start the review. But before that, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really helps, and it shows that you guys enjoy the Four Knights content on the channel. I really enjoy making these chapter reviews weekly for you guys, and it's just really nice going over what happened and giving my thoughts on what was previously read. But without further ado, let's hit that intro and get right into the chapter. Chapter 102 of Four Knights of the Apocalypse, titled Mad King. And honestly, if that isn't really enough to get you hyped for this chapter, that is something that I don't know what is. But we start off this chapter in Camelot, with Arthur being briefed of the situation, of what happened in Walneck, being told that one of the Four Knights' comrades perished, but all four knights are still unharmed. And as for Tiernich and Macduff, they have been confirmed dead. Arthur puts his hand over his face as Ironside, in Arthur's throne room, is speaking to Guinevere on the situation, as she says, "Looks to me like one of them was killed by you. Using curse reversal to pay her back with magic you gave her, it's kind of in bad taste." But Ironside says that countermeasures against betrayal are basically essential. It would be bothersome if someone would lead others to Camelot for their own safety. So Guinevere says, "Now do you understand? This is what it means to pay a greater price for trying to defy fate." And she basically says that if Arthur didn't try to defy things, more or less the two knights would have still been alive and they wouldn't have been killed, all because Arthur wanted to defy fate. Ironside tells Arthur not to let his guard down, but Arthur says, "The price for defying fate. Is that so?" As he starts to laugh, saying that it's not a big deal. They're not talking about anything big. The worst is that he kind of sacrificed two people, and that's kind of great. Shocking Guinevere, and we get still a nice image on Ironside, perhaps contemplating what Arthur's saying, or kind of lamenting that Arthur thought that way. He says, "It's worth mentioning that we hurt them emotionally rather than physically. Knights of Prophecy or not, they're still just 16-year-old kids, and now they have something to put up with." So he kind of was like, okay, I lost two guys, so what? I damaged them psychologically and emotionally. They're still kids, so it works even better. Scary thing is, he's not wrong, especially with those that knew Jade. So yeah, the man literally kind of accepted the fact that he lost two pawns, more or less, and he damaged them in that way. Honestly, psychological warfare is the way to go for Arthur. It's one of the easiest ways for him to basically wear them down, to see how he's going with things. But yeah, that's kind of scary to see how Arthur's thinking like this. And then he asks Guinevere about the next vision of the future, because he wants his next move to be planned as soon as possible. But Guinevere kind of clarifies that Arthur only slightly changed the future by defying fate. But Arthur, in his chaos eyes being incredibly serious and menacing, tells her to mind her tongue and answer. "I believe the party is headed for the Mare next, correct? What kind of hand does your kaleidoscope see me play?" Guinevere shivers, kind of, obviously being scared of Arthur, because that's the kind of look of a serial killer. And she basically says after Tiernus and Macduff's failure, he sends 3 times as many assassins their way. And the results, apparently, 2 were taken down and 4 were killed. Ironside says, "Then why not pit them against twice as many? Human resources are limited, and this is unlikely to be a simple matter of overwhelming them with numbers. But then Arthur chose the Ironside and says, I'll leave you to choose the 6. And one more. Let's add your brother-in-law and make it 7. As Ironside's like, wait, but he's in my garden right now. But Arthur says, your king commands it. And I like how when Arthur is like being very threatening, how text bubbles are being used here. Very threatening. I don't know if this is like a translator's thing or if it's something in the actual Japanese text, but really nice. Honestly, someone on Twitter made a theory that Arthur is going to have 7 elite knights called the 7 virtues, kind of like the opposite to the 7 deadly sins. And if this is like the origins of that elite group, I'm all here for it, because that's going to be freaking awesome. We then cut to a piece of land hovering in the air in Camelot, which is assumed to be in Ironside's domain there, as Diordre is sparring with someone with a small sword, and it's kind of revealed to be his uncle, Ironside's brother-in-law. So we get the reveal that Ironside has a brother-in-law, and Percival has an uncle. So it's interesting. He's teaching Diordre how to fight and fence. And this conversation is honestly kind of sweet and wholesome, as he's saying, Diordre, did you get stronger? Have you been practicing behind your dad's back again? As Diordre says, don't tell my father, alright? He'll just worry about me. As he starts to cough also, as Diordre has been said to have some health issues. But yeah, that's kind of interesting to go about things. Diordre has kind of the cool uncle that'll be like, okay, we'll do these things behind your dad's back. Let's not tell him this. But then Diordre says, hey uncle, can you tell me what happens next in that story? And tells a short, inappropriate story about him and his sister and going into some sort of entertainment district when they were kids, wandering in there, and then their dad found out and kind of gave them a good beating. Right before his uncle finishes a sentence saying, don't take after, Diordre smiles and says, why does father lie? Father always says that Britannia is a terrifying world full of danger. I hate feeling so curious about it. As his uncle is being like, okay, look, I understand how you feel, but my brother says they aren't really lies either, you know? All I can say for sure is that he loves you from the bottom of his heart, as he pats Diordre's head. Now look, obviously they are in wartime, so people from Camelot are more or less going to be in danger from other people in the world, but that's also going to be kind of, well, I'd have to say propaganda to an extent, because Arthur is kind of declaring war on basically everybody else that isn't human, and every other kingdom in Britannia are kind of like allied of humans, fairies, giants, and to an extent maybe demons, but primarily like the giants and fairies, and maybe the goddesses too, but they're off doing their own thing. So they are trying to protect Diordre from everything else. And there's also a theory that Diordre just can't leave Camelot. Perhaps Diordre was cured because he was in Camelot, and if he leaves, he might end up dying. So that's probably why Ironside is being so adamant about not telling Diordre about outside of Camelot and the rest of Britannia, so that he won't get too curious and want to venture out on his own and see what's going on. And possibly even learn that he has a older brother. But then a bird shows up and presents a message. And it is Ironside stating that a ditch pass from Arthur was stated, and incidentally, Ironside is also being mobilized for work as well. And so Diordre's uncle leaves 2 of his men with Diordre to keep him company and to protect them. Their names are Turet and Rothis. Moves out, we learn his name is Mortlech, and I believe this is the same knight that appeared to get Ironside to leave Sistana after the whole Coffin of Eternal Darkness plan failed, when Percival was reawakened by the power of his hope magic. So I believe this is the exact same character. But yeah, he is getting 6 other knights, and they're going to go off to Dalmare, I believe, and go to fight the 4 knights. But as we're seeing, things aren't going to be that simple. We then cut to daybreak as we're outside Walneck, as the 4 knights and their friends are in front of a casket. Thetis has joined them as well, and this is honestly a really nice page of just everybody looking down at Jade's coffin. And I'm glad that Thetis is here. I feel like she's definitely going to play a major role in the next arc based on how things are ending and leading into things. So I'm very glad Thetis is here, and I really felt that with her importance from the previous arc in Leonis. she would need to be a major player and be part of the group, so she's probably going to be Jade's replacement for the time being on this short journey. Theta says that I didn't think we'd suffer a casualty this soon, and it's a shame. I'll take responsibility for Jade's body and bring him home. Isolde tells Jade to rest in peace, and Donnie says, we'll hold out for you, man. Everyone has kind of grown attached to Jade and grew to respect him, so obviously they're still shaken up by this, as literally this is the very next day after his death. Thetis tells Tristan, you are continuing to look for Camelot's clues, okay? But Tristan says that they actually have some information about it. And she's like, information from who? As Io comes over from over the cliff, as Tristan introduces her as a demon. Gian looking menacingly at her, and Isolde just looking down, being incredibly heartbroken still over Jade, obviously, because he did die because Tristan chose to stay and fight Io, and basically listened to her information before laying down the barrier and going off to try and find his friends, because that was what he decided to do. And obviously Tristan still very much blaming himself for Jade's death, and the others blaming Io for keeping Tristan from helping them. That's what I can get from those two panels. Io then says, I'm really sorry. Because of me, you lost your comrade. And An shouts out and says, if you have any intel that gets us to Camelot, tell us now. But if it turns out to be wrong, we'll never forgive you. And Io does understand this and says, let's go, follow me. As Donnie's like, wait, follow you where? If you're just telling us to go to Del Mare. But Io says, no, where we're headed is the Demon Realm, as we get a full 2-page spread teasing us of the Demon Realm. And my god, does this look incredibly, and I mean incredibly detailed and amazing and horrifying at the same time, with everyone giving their reactions to being heard that they were going to the Demon Realm. It's everyone in this group, so I really think that Thetis is going to go with them. And if our theories that are kind of more or less being more and more confirmed as things goes on, that Thetis is Derriere's reincarnation, it'd be awesome if she met Zeldris and they recognized each other, and it'd be fun to see if they have some kind of banter back and forth. I would love to see that. And Thetis going back to her original home from her past life, that'd be interesting to see as well. But hey, we get to see the demon world in the next arc. We only saw a glimpse of it in Seven Deadly Sins from flashbacks and in the Cursed by Light movie, but not much of it, just like a wasteland. So we might actually get to see Zeldris and Gelda, maybe Tristan's cousin. That'd be something interesting to see. But as we start to close out the chapter, Percival asks what the Demon Realm is like. Donnie says it's sort of like another country, and Nazianz chimes in saying, consider it Dol-Tomache's home. And remember, Dol-Tomache is the demon that Percival made friends in during the Peaks of Fear, the Malt Flare arc. Also where we met Gowther and found out that Percival can somehow speak the demon language. And Percival's actually very excited, but Io is fixated on Percival, as Percival's asking what's wrong. Is there something on my face? But Io then asks, are you Percival? As the chapter ends. And this, 3 big things in this chapter. 1, Arthur is not concerned about this loss in his men and is getting 7 elite knights together to go take on the 4 knights, but thinking that they're going to Del Mare, but instead Io shows up with the second big reveal that they're going to the Demon Realm next, which means we could see Zeldris, Gelda. We might be able to see like some other characters, other demons maybe, and even Zeldris and Gelda's child, if they do have one, Tristan's cousin, which would be really cool to see a demon-vampire hybrid, and see how they fight, and if they'll join the main group as well, or something like that. It'd be really cool, and maybe we see Zeldris in action, as well as the final page of the chapter, telling us that Io knows Percival somehow. So maybe Percival is secretly a demon, or has ties to the demon realm, or something like that. I am very curious, because people were wondering if maybe Percival is half demon somehow. And the fact that Io knows Percival is something very interesting. Now, we all know that Percival is Ironside's son. That's a given at this point. It's confirmed by Arthur, by everyone else. But we don't know what Percival is. It might have something to do with Merlin doing experiments and making Percival part demon. The fact that Io knows Percival by name is interesting and very mysterious. I'm curious to see what happens with this, because there's a lot to think about, and I'm not sure what I think about this at this very moment, and I've read this chapter 3 times, and I'm still speculating on what it's going to be, but I'm very curious, and the Demon Realm seems to have a lot of the answers. But overall, this chapter was really great. I like that we got some more of Percival's extended family with his uncle Arthur, showing how unhinged he really is, even more with the loss of his comrades. How Guinevere is kind of still having to tell him the future because she is kind of afraid of Arthur. Ironside reluctantly kind of being like, alright, I'll get my brother-in-law to do this. The Demon Realm, Io knowing Percival. There's just so much in this chapter that I'm not even sure what to tackle next and what's going to be explored first. And I'm curious to see what's going to happen with the 7 knights that get assembled, that they go to Dal Mare and they don't meet up with the 4 knights in their group, and they're like, what's going on here? And maybe they'll head to the Demon Realm and cause some trouble, and we'll see Zeldris in action. I'd love to see that. But what did you guys think of this chapter? What do you think of all the revelations that we've got in the setup for the next arc being the Demon Realm and not the Fairy King's Forest like we were originally promised? Leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section down below. Give me your theories. I love seeing what you guys think and interacting with you guys. And I cannot wait to talk about the next chapter and what's going to happen next. But with all that said and done, I hope you enjoyed the review and I hope you all have an awesome day.